Hi, this is Dave Belsky, your host of the Sunset Session. We have two very special guests today. We have Jason Vegotsky and Arun Kurichety, the co-founders of Pedalfast. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining.
Thanks for having us, David.
So, what is Pedalfast?
Geez, Pedalfast is like the culmination of pretty much my 15-year professional career. Started in wine and spirits, went into food and beverage, and then have been in cannabis for the last 5 years. And after hearing the same problems over and over again by brands, we figured we'd set out to solve them. And really what Pedalfast is a sales and marketing agency that solves two problems for brands. Problem number one, we're going to get you into more stores. Problem number two, and I believe most importantly, is we're going to increase the velocity of your brand's turns within the stores that you're already in.
Well, I mean, it's one thing, and I think that's fantastic, because it's one thing to like break down doors and like navigate the sea of mom and pop buyers that exist in this industry. It's another thing to actually get traction once you sell the first time, to get the sell through and increase the volume out of the stores is obviously the goal. So I'd love to hear more about it in a second. So you mentioned your career, food and beverage, alcohol, and obviously cannabis. What did you do before Pedalfast?
Sure. I grew up around wine and spirits in New Jersey. East Coast guy.
Are there wineries in Jersey?
No wineries, but a distributor, a Southern wine and spirits type of distributor. Distributor is called Fedway Associates. We bring brands to market in New Jersey. My dad was there for 45 years, so that company felt like family to me. I spent about 6 years with that business and just understanding bartender activation, on-premise, off-premise, how do you build brands, go-to-market strategy, and had a lot of fun. But it didn't necessarily drive me to get up every day in the morning. I wanted to try my hand at being an entrepreneur. And for cannabis, my next move was actually the best one from a knowledge standpoint. Of course, not the most natural move, but I left wine and spirits to actually start a beef jerky company. The company was Lawless Jerky. We built it into a national brand nationwide, went Whole Foods and Sprouts and Publix and all of the national retailers. And for me, I made every mistake you could possibly make with that business. I raised a bunch of money for the first time. I had a down round. Investors loved me. The investors hated me. I went too wide into accounts rather than deep in accounts. And so we were lucky enough to have an exit. But after that business, I said, okay, what am I going to do next? This didn't financially change my life, but I think it financially changed kind of the education that I have about building brands. Right?
Yeah.
And I got into cannabis. I did about 6 months of diligence, and I figured I wanted to be on the oil side of the business. And I actually bought a contract for butane gas out of bankruptcy, and I started the first really national distributor of hazmat gases to cannabis labs. So butane, propane, ethanol, isopropyl, all the chemicals that turn flour into oil, I sold. And we took a 2-week wait time for butane down to next day delivery across the entire country, and we really had some nice success. That business sold to Kushco Holdings about 3 years ago, 2.5, 3 years ago. And when we sold to Kushco Holdings, I became the president and chief revenue officer of Kushco, Kushco being one of the largest ancillary businesses in cannabis. It gave me a great perch to work with a number of different companies across the industry. And just
from like MSOs to single state operators and smaller ones in states out east or the Midwest and obviously California and Colorado and everywhere.
Different states, so pretty much every state, and different levels of sophistication, meaning all the MSOs from GTI to Cresco to Holistic and everybody in between, all the way down to the smaller guy in California, or the small guy who's been in business with one shop in Colorado, Seattle and Oregon and so on and so forth. So being able to see all the states and all of the different types of players, I think allows you to view the industry in a different way than most, because most people get caught up like, I'm the oil guy, I'm just in the lab, right? I got to kind of see everything, and that was the basis for starting Pedalfast. I kept getting the same problems over and over and over again from brands about the struggles of building brands and the struggles of finding the right distributor and the struggles of activating in retail and the struggles of, hey, how do I get bud tenders to push my brand, right?
Yeah.
And that felt very much like how brands would come to a liquor distributor and say, how do I take your brand to market? We did about a year of diligence on this business while at Kushco. And we were about to launch it at Kushco, and we couldn't do it because it was about too close to touching the plant. Sure. And the guy who said no, I couldn't launch the business at Kushco, actually was my partner Arun.
That guy.
Yeah.
Who were like, this is a good idea, let's do it together.
He's like, former GC at Kushco. No, we couldn't do it because of certain covenants with our loan. It just wasn't something that Kushco as a business could do. We were too close to touching the plant. And for me, as an entrepreneur, it was I had enough of kind of the public company life, and I wanted to start my next thing. I left, and the first person I called was Arun.
And Arun, so you were the general counsel at Kush Bottles, the largest ancillary cannabis publicly traded company out there. Kush Bottles, Green Lane, one of those, right? What did you do before Kush?
Kush Bottles, Green Lane. I might be biased.
For me, I know this has been like a culmination of kind of the past 10 years for Jason. It's the same for me, except from kind of a different aspect. I've always been entrepreneurial, but I cut my teeth doing restructuring work during the Great Recession, working with a lot of different companies and understanding why they failed. And I think a lot of those companies failed because they had people like Jason that were great at that function, but they didn't necessarily have kind of the operational backbone or the base to build the company.
Right.
Even though Kushco was a public company, I think when I got in there was still a lot of work to be done to kind of have it grow up and be the kind of public company that could be listed on NASDAQ, that could get a credit facility. So I saw that as a challenge, but also to Jason's point, just a tremendous opportunity to see the whole industry from kind of that bird's eye view. So obviously, spent 2 years there learning a lot about the industry. And then when Jason kind of approached me about this business idea at Kush, I knew that Jason was all about kind of a team first mentality, understood whose strengths and weaknesses. And if we could have the opportunity to build that team on that premise, I was all in. Yeah. And I think, the way that we've been able to work and the team that we've been able to put around us, obviously with your guys' help, has been fantastic thus far.
Thanks for the shout out. I appreciate it. Obviously, you guys hired most of your people through your phenomenal network that you have already. So talk to me about how does Pedalfast solve the problem of getting into shops and promoting sell-through?
Yeah, so when we're talking to brands, there's typically, we solve the two problems that I mentioned before. Number one, we'll get you into more stores. Number two, we're going to increase the velocity within your stores. And what I always tell brands and founders or startups, it's not about how much revenue you're doing, right? And in this space, there's been a lot of public companies that have gone public a little bit too early, had to build in their valuations, and there's been a lot of emphasis on building revenue, right? But when you're a Diageo or a big brand house, you're not necessarily just looking at revenue, you're looking at velocity. And you're looking to see how do you turn versus your competition, right? And you want to outpace the category. So that is a lot of marketing, right? And it's not necessarily, let me go create a Super Bowl ad.
Right.
In cannabis, it's a lot of field and trade marketing, meaning merchandising, meaning just on-the-shelf planogramming, meaning the right price, meaning like just have the sales tag up on the shelf when you have a sale or a price point on the shelf. So what Pedalfast does for brands is two things. Number one, we have a sales arm that allows us to take you into retails. We've partnered with our preferred distributor, Herbal Distribution.
Biggest in California.
After a lot of diligence with all the distributors, I think that Herbal's management team really separated them from everybody else. Mike Boudry comes from UNFI and ran a $20 billion distributor, so I figured he could figure this one out. And then we have 10 salespeople to help with that sell into the stores. So we have Herbal, and then we overlay that with our 10 salespeople. And what that looks like is how Diageo overlays Southern Wine and Spirits, right? So that's just taking what I've seen in spirits and overlaying it, while Herbal and their reps are focused on the day-to-day accounts receivable and pickups and misships and all of the day-to-day stuff with stores. Pedalfast is focused on getting you into new stores, getting new SKUs into existing stores, and finding opportunities for your brand to be presented in a better way within that store. Buying AP Keaton's cannabis division allowed us to take experienced marketeers in cannabis that have big time scalability, given the work that they do nationwide for brands like Jameson and all the big liquor brands.
Well, and we're getting to a point from just a talent standpoint, especially in a place like California, where there's a lot of people that have transitioned into cannabis over the last 1, 2, 3 years that came from alcohol, that came from wine and spirits, came from food, but on the sales side, specifically wine and spirits, and you get to a point where now you can actually bring somebody in who understands traditional industry and has seen cannabis and now wants to, either they're like, I don't want this anymore, I'm going back to wine and spirits, or they're like, I got to stay here and I'm looking for a company with the right strategy to win in this industry. And I'm sure you've been, that strategy you have has resonated with some of the folks that I know you've interviewed through us, but also on your own, that you've been able to come and join this effort.
I don't know if it's the COVID or what, but I feel like the last 6 months there's been an acceleration even in the talent pool out there for some of the cannabis jobs that we've been able to see. And then more importantly, with the brands that we're working with, the talent level there has been excellent.
So in building out and getting the right brands to be part of Pedalfast, obviously you look at like some real anchor brands that already resonate with people that are ready to stop self-distributing or not happy with their existing distributor and don't have the money to fund their own marketing and see the value add. What are some of the brands that you guys have been able to sign up as you've launched here in the last 60 days?
Yeah, so we've been feeling pretty good, and I think we're hitting a pain point at the right time. And a lot of cannabis is just about the right time at the right place, right? The pain point that we talked about with the cash flow is really, really prevalent right now. So the brands that we've been able to bring on and signed at the moment that I can speak to, number one, we have Moxie. Obviously a legacy brand, been around for a long time. We feel really lucky to have them in the portfolio. Number two, we have Wana. Wana being
the number one edibles in Colorado. That's that's a great product.
Nationwide, and I think we're going to really be able to show our growth for that brand within California. We have a brand called Space Coyote. Unbelievable people, unbelievable founders, unbelievable mission. Scott and Libby have been in cannabis. They've also been successful in other industries. And they're doing it the right way, and they're not trying to hit a home run overnight, right? They've done this properly. So very excited about our infused pre-roll brand, Space Coyote. We have a brand called Big Pete's.
Big Pete's Treats.
Everybody knows Big Pete's Treats.
Yeah. Yum yum.
They're OGs. They've been around for a long time, and they are doing a lot of good things. We have smaller brands as well, and we help these brands. And we'll put our own money into the brands if we really believe in them. We'll help them raise money. We'll help them with their supply chain. We have a couple smaller brands that I just want to mention. Besito, really good founder, and Maggie really knows what she's doing, and really just needs a little bit of muscle to show like how beautiful the brand is, right? And we can provide that. We have a really cool brand called Weed, which is a San Diego brand only right now. They're in about 13 stores. Do a lot of quality sun-grown flower. We have a brand that's launching called My High, which is a water-soluble powder brand. And then we have a really cool brand called Filter. Filter is, if you would have told me this 2 years ago, I wouldn't have believed it. But given COVID and what we're dealing with now, Filter goes on the top of a vape cartridge, and as you inhale in, right, you blow back out into the same filter, and no vapor goes into the atmosphere, which, again, 2 years ago, probably wouldn't have believed you, but now I can see it. I can see a world where you can't smoke outside with vapor, right, or inside. So we look at each category, and then we look at consumer demographic, and we're not going to build a portfolio of brands that goes after the same consumer. But I'm not going to say I'm only going to take 5 brands, because I believe that there will still be innovation within the space. Right, and as new things come out, we want to be able to take them in.
Last thing I'll ask is, you guys, you've made this mention a couple times, and I think of you guys as part of the California ecosystem. And obviously, when you're at Kush, you're serving a nationwide, North American wide customer base. What does nationwide mean for Pedalfast?
Again, with Kushco, we've been able to forge the relationships with some of the biggest MSOs in the space. I think they all
It's
have
not easy.
They all have plus and minuses, but we certainly have a path for our brands as they become. We don't want to lose focus, but as you start to saturate the California market, you can look at other opportunities across the country, and we would bring you there.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys coming in today. It was fantastic. You know, a nice twofer. And I look forward to seeing what you guys do in the marketplace, and you know, check out the brands he mentioned at the shops. They'll be, if they're not there, they'll be there very soon.
Exactly.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.